The vast observatory of the Nexary floated silently in the darkness between stars, its crystalline surfaces reflecting the distant light of a billion suns. Inside, senior observer Velanine stood motionless, her ethereal form barely distinguishable from the shimmer of the holographic displays surrounding her. For 10,000 years, she had watched the cosmos with unwavering patience, cataloging the rise and fall of civilizations across the galaxy. Time meant little to the Nexary. They had transcended its boundaries eons ago, their consciousness existing in a state of perpetual present. But today was different. Today, the patterns had changed. Anomaly detected in Sector 847. The observatory's consciousness whispered through the neural network. Unusual technological advancement rate detected on a Class 3 world. Velanine's attention shifted, her consciousness extending through the observatory's sensors toward the spiral arm where Earth resided. The planet itself was unremarkable, a blue-green orb circling an average star. What caught her attention was the speed at which its dominant species was evolving. Impossible, she thought, the word rippling through the neural network to her assistants. Run the temporal analysis again. The data streams confirmed what she had observed. This species, these humans, were advancing at a rate that defied all known development patterns. Where other races took millennia to progress through technological stages, humans were doing it in centuries, sometimes decades. They're rushing, observed her assistant, Nexus 12, his thought patterns tinged with confusion, as if they're being chased by something. Velanine expanded the observation field, taking in the full scope of human civilization. Cities blazed across the night side of their world like neural pathways, their transport systems pulsing with movement. Their orbital space was cluttered with satellites and debris, messy, chaotic, but undeniably advancing. Not being chased, she realized, her thoughts crystallizing. They're racing against time itself. They're mortal. The concept of mortality was ancient history to the Nexary. They had eliminated death so long ago that it existed only in their oldest archives. The idea of a species achieving spaceflight while still bound by natural death was unprecedented. Velanine initiated a deeper scan, focusing on individual human lives. She watched as they were born, grew, aged, and died, all in what felt to her like the blink of an eye. But in those brief spans, they created art, built machines, formed bonds, and pursued goals with an intensity that she found both fascinating and disturbing. Council must be notified, Nexus 12 suggested, but Velanine held him back. Wait, she commanded. There's something here we need to understand first. She focused on a single human family, a mother teaching her child to read, knowing she wouldn't be there forever to guide them. A father working multiple jobs to secure his children's future, despite his own exhaustion. Young humans rushing to accomplish their dreams before time ran out. For the first time in thousands of years, Velanine felt something stir within her consciousness, an emotion she had thought long extinct in her kind. Wonder. They achieved so much, she mused, not despite their mortality, but because of it. The observation chamber filled with data as more Nexary observers joined her, drawn by the unusual patterns in her thought stream. They watched as humans fought diseases, launched rockets, created symphonies, and loved each other, all with a fierce urgency that made the Nexary's eternal existence suddenly seem empty. Their limitation is their strength, Velanine concluded, her consciousness resonating with a new understanding. Each moment holds meaning because they know it won't last forever. As the Earth rotated below them, Velanine made a decision that would change both species forever. She began composing her report to the Council, but not as a warning about a primitive species. Instead, she would present humanity as something the Nexary had never encountered before: teachers. For the first time in their eternal existence, the observers of infinity had found something truly new to learn. The Grand Archive of the Nexary hummed with activity as research teams processed the flood of data from Earth. Observation pods lined the crystalline walls, each containing a Nexari researcher immersed in studying different aspects of human civilization. At the center of this controlled chaos stood Director Kira 7, her form shimmering with the neural patterns of intense concentration. "Show me their conflicts," she commanded, and the central hologram erupted with images of human warfare, protest movements, and personal struggles. But unlike her predecessors who had dismissed such chaos as proof of primitive development, Kyra 7 saw something else entirely. "They fight because they must choose," she observed to her team. "With finite time, every decision carries weight." The research team watched as humans faced impossible choices, leaders weighing policies that would affect generations they would never meet, scientists racing against terminal illnesses to complete their work, artists pouring their remaining strength into final masterpieces. Researcher Zen 3, the youngest among them, focused on human relationships. "Their bonds are intense," he reported, his thought patterns flickering with emotion. "They know each moment together could be their last, so they feel everything more deeply." A hologram shifted to show scenes of human love, elderly couples holding hands in hospitals, parents sacrificing everything for their children, friends supporting each other through grief and joy. The Nexari observers fell silent, their eternal minds struggling to comprehend the depth of emotion displayed. "These beings live more in a decade than we have in millennia," Kyra 7 realized, her consciousness rippling with an unfamiliar sensation, something almost like envy. But it was their study of human creativity that truly shook the Nexari's understanding. They watched as humans, aware of their limited time, poured their essence into works of art, music, and literature. Each piece carried not just information but emotion, purpose, and a desperate desire to leave something behind. "They create because they will end," Zen 3 observed. "Every work is an attempt at immortality." The irony wasn't lost on Kyra 7. The Nexari had achieved actual immortality ages ago, yet they had stopped creating, stopped feeling with such intensity. Their eternal existence had become a plateau of comfortable stagnation. As the research continued, subtle changes began appearing among the observation team. Zen 3 started composing poetry, something no Nexari had done in thousands of years. Others began engaging in philosophical debates about the nature of existence, questioning their society's assumptions about the superiority of immortality. Kyra 7 noticed these changes with growing concern and fascination. The study of humanity was affecting her people in unprecedented ways. Some researchers requested to experience simulated mortality in the virtual chambers, an unthinkable desire before their contact with Earth. "We've lived so long, we've forgotten how to live," one researcher declared during a debate, causing ripples of discomfort and agreement through the neural network. The observation project was becoming more than a scientific study. It was evolving into a mirror that showed the Nexari what they had lost in their pursuit of endless existence. Humanity's brief, bright lives were like supernovas compared to the Nexari's eternal but dim stellar existence. Kyra 7 compiled her findings, knowing they would disturb the council. Humanity wasn't just surviving despite their mortality. They were achieving greatness because of it. Their limited lifespans created an urgency that drove innovation, fostered deep connections, and inspired creativity in ways the Nexari had long forgotten. As she prepared to present her report, she received an urgent message from Earth observation. Humans had discovered a way to extend their lifespans significantly. The Nexari watched with fascination as humanity faced its first real choice about mortality, and were shocked when many humans rejected extreme life extension, arguing it would diminish the beauty and meaning of their existence. Perhaps, Kyra 7 thought, sharing her revelation through the neural network, immortality isn't the ultimate achievement we believed it to be. Perhaps there's something profound in the beauty of an ending that we've lost sight of. Her words spread through the archive, igniting discussions and debates that would soon shake the very foundations of Nexari society. They had set out to study humanity, but in doing so, they were rediscovering themselves. In the crystalline spires of the Nexari Central Academy, A revolution was brewing, not one of violence or uprising, but of consciousness. Zen 3 stood before the shimmering quantum display, watching the human orchestra perform. The music wasn't just sound. To his increasingly sensitive perception, it was pure emotion given form. "I can feel it," he whispered to his gathered colleagues, his form pulsing with newfound sensations. "Not just analyze it, actually feel it." Around him, a group of younger Nexari gathered, their own forms showing unusual variations in their usually stable energy patterns. They had been changed by their study of humanity, developing what their ancestors would have considered a concerning irregularity: emotions. Area 15, once a steady theoretical physicist, now spent her time creating art inspired by human works. Her latest piece, a temporal sculpture showing the beauty of decay, hung in the chamber center, a direct challenge to the Nexari's obsession with permanence. "The humans have awakened something in us," she explained, her thoughts resonating with an intensity that would have been shocking months ago. "Something we buried beneath millennia of perfect, unchanging existence." The evidence was undeniable. Throughout the academy, Nexari who had contact with human studies were experiencing unprecedented changes. They began seeking out new experiences, forming stronger bonds, and most surprisingly, creating art that carried genuine emotion. Elder Monitor Vex 1 arrived unannounced, his ancient consciousness radiating concern. "Your patterns are becoming erratic," he observed. "This fascination with human behavior is causing instability in our society." But his words, which once would have brought immediate compliance, now met with thoughtful resistance. "Perhaps instability isn't something to fear," challenged Zen 3. "Look at what humans create from their chaos, their uncertainty, their fear of ending. When was the last time our species created anything truly new?" The chamber filled with examples. Human music that brought tears to eyes that hadn't wept in eons. Poetry that made immortal hearts ache with borrowed longing. Art that captured the exquisite pain and joy of existing in time rather than above it. "We traded our capacity for deep experience in exchange for endless existence," Area 15 added, her form rippling with emotion. "We gained forever, but lost the ability to fully live in any given moment." The younger Nexari were changing in ways their society had never anticipated. They began experimenting with temporary bonds, intentionally limiting their connections to experience the poignancy of passing relationships. Some even started practicing what they called temporal art, works designed to degrade and disappear, their beauty enhanced by their impermanence. The change wasn't universal. Many Nexari watched with horror as their younger members embraced what they saw as regression. The council issued warnings about maintaining stability, about the dangers of emotional contamination from human influence. But for those experiencing the awakening, there was no going back. They had tasted something that their eternal existence had never offered: the bittersweet beauty of impermanence. A crucial moment came when Zen 3 made an unprecedented request to the council. "I wish to experience mortality," he announced, sending shockwaves through the collective consciousness, not as a simulation, but as reality. The response was immediate and divided. Elder members recoiled in horror, while others, particularly among the younger generation, felt a deep resonance with his desire. The council chambers erupted in debate, the usually serene space filling with clashing thought patterns. "You would throw away the greatest achievement of our species," demanded Vex 1. "Countless generations worked to free us from death's grasp." "Perhaps they succeeded too well," Area 15 countered, standing with Zen 3. "In freeing us from death, they also freed us from truly living. We've been existing, not living." As the debate raged, more Nexari began experiencing emotional awakening. They found themselves moved by human art, fascinated by human relationships, and most surprisingly, envious of human mortality. The very thing their species had fought to overcome was now being seen in a new light. The awakening spread like waves through quantum space, touching more and more of the younger generation. They began to understand that their species' greatest achievement, the conquest of death, might also have been their greatest loss. "We are changing," Zen 3 announced to his growing circle of supporters. "Not evolving toward perfection, but returning to something essential we lost along the way. The humans haven't corrupted us. They've reminded us of what it means to be truly alive." The stage was set for a decision that would reshape both species forever. The Nexari stood at a crossroads, facing a choice between eternal stability and the chaotic beauty of finite existence. The awakening had begun, and there would be no returning to the comfortable numbness of pure immortality. The Nexari High Council Chamber, a vast space of interconnected consciousness, crackled with unprecedented tension. For the first time in millions of years, the immortal species faced internal division. On one side stood the traditionalists, led by Supreme Elder Vex 1, determined to maintain their species' eternal existence. On the other, a growing movement of awakened Nexari, with Zen 3 and Area 15 at its heart. "Our society stands at the edge of chaos," Vex 1's thoughts reverberated through the chamber. "This obsession with human mortality threatens everything we've built." But Zen 3 stepped forward, his form pulsing with newfound emotional energy. "What exactly have we built, Elder?" "A society that exists forever, but creates nothing new. That observes but never truly experiences." The chamber erupted in overlapping thought patterns as countless Nexari joined the debate. Millennia of carefully maintained consensus shattered as younger members voiced their dissent. "We've discovered something remarkable in humanity," Area 15 projected, sharing vivid images of human achievements. "They create masterpieces knowing they'll never see their full impact. They love deeply knowing it must end. They fight harder, dream bigger, and live more fully precisely because their time is limited." The evidence was undeniable. In the short time since their discovery of Earth, the awakened Nexari had produced more art, music, and scientific innovations than their society had in the previous 1,000 years. Their emotional awakening, triggered by human influence, had sparked a renaissance of creativity. "And what do you propose?" challenged another elder. "That we abandon immortality, embrace decay and death." Zen 3's response shocked the assembly. "We propose choice. The ability to choose mortality or immortality. To experience life as humans do, or remain as we are. Not for our entire species, but for those who wish it." The proposal was revolutionary. The awakened group had discovered ancient texts describing the process of mortality induction, a way to make their eternal consciousness finite. It wasn't death in the human sense, but a gradual transition to a mortal state over several human lifespans. "This is madness," Vex 1 declared. "You would throw away the greatest gift our ancestors fought to achieve." "Perhaps," Area 15 countered. "The greatest gift isn't immortality itself, but the wisdom to choose when and how to exist. The humans have shown us that meaning often comes from limitations, not their absence." The debate raged for what humans would consider weeks. The awakened movement grew, particularly among younger Nexari who worked closely with human studies. They began experimenting with temporary conscious states, limiting their perception of time to better understand human experience. Then came the turning point. A group of 1,000 Nexari, led by Zen 3 and Area 15, formally announced their intention to undergo mortality induction. It wasn't a small splinter group anymore. It was a significant portion of their society's youngest and most brilliant minds. "We don't seek death," Zen 3 explained to the stunned council. "We seek life. Real, meaningful, consequence-filled life. We want to create art that comes from genuine emotion, not intellectual exercise. We want to love knowing it's precious because it's finite." The council faced an impossible decision. Attempting to stop the movement could shatter their society. Allowing it meant accepting the most fundamental change in their species' history. In a moment that would be recorded in both Nexari and human histories, Supreme Elder Vex 1 made an unexpected move. "I oppose your choice," he announced, "but I recognize your right to make it. Perhaps, perhaps this is evolution of a kind we never anticipated." The decision opened a new chapter in Nexary history. Those who chose mortality would retain their knowledge and capabilities, but would begin experiencing time as humans did, in a linear, finite way. They would age, albeit over centuries rather than decades, and eventually reach an end. As the first group prepared for the transition, something unexpected happened. Their impending mortality made their experiences more vivid, their connections deeper, their creative expressions more powerful. They began creating works of art that moved even the most traditional Nexareid to emotional response. "We were wrong," Area 15 shared in her final message as an immortal. "Humanity's mortality isn't a weakness to be pitied. It's the source of their greatest strength, the ability to make every moment matter." The choice had been made. The Nexary would no longer be a purely immortal species, but one where members could choose between eternal observation and finite participation. It was a transformation that would reshape not just their society, but their understanding of existence itself. A century after the Great Choice, the Nexary civilization had transformed into something unprecedented in the galaxy's history. The crystalline spires of their world now house both immortal and mortal Nexary, creating a society that bridged eternity and finitude. The result was more extraordinary than either side had imagined. Zen 3, now visibly aged with his energy patterns showing subtle signs of temporal wear, stood before a gathering of both mortal and immortal Nexary. His consciousness, though no longer eternal, radiated with an intensity that his immortal self had never known. "We thought we were choosing between immortality and mortality," he addressed the assembly, his thoughts carrying the weight of lived experience. "Instead, we discovered a third path, one that combines the wisdom of eternal existence with the intensity of finite life." The proof of this evolution surrounded them. The mortal Nexary had developed abilities their immortal kin never possessed, the capacity to feel deeply, to create art that carried genuine emotion, to form bonds that were stronger precisely because they would end. Yet they retained their species' vast knowledge and capabilities, wielding them with new purpose and passion. Area 15, her form now flickering with the beautiful uncertainty of mortality, had become the pioneer of a new art form that combined Nexary energy manipulation with human-inspired emotional expression. Her works could make even the most stoic immortal elders experience echoes of feeling. The immortal Nexary, in turn, had been profoundly changed by witnessing their mortal kin's transformation. Many began experimenting with temporary states of mortality, choosing to experience finite periods while retaining their eternal essence. The rigid division between the two states had blurred into a spectrum of existence. "Humanity taught us that limitation isn't weakness," Area 15 shared, projecting images of human achievements alongside Nexary creations. "They showed us that the shadow of ending gives depth to every moment, every choice, every connection." The impact extended far beyond their own species. The Nexary's understanding of humanity had deepened immensely. What they once saw as primitive urgency, they now recognized as profound wisdom. Humans hadn't failed to achieve immortality. Many had chosen not to pursue it, intuitively understanding what the Nexary had taken eons to learn. Supreme Elder Vex-1, who had opposed the original choice, now stood with a changed perspective. "We thought we were perfect," he admitted, his ancient consciousness humbled. "But perfection, we learned, isn't found in endless existence. It's found in the courage to be imperfect, to change, to end." The greatest validation came from humanity itself. When the Nexary finally made official contact, humans were fascinated not by their immortality, but by their choice to embrace mortality. It formed the foundation of a unique alliance, two species approaching the same profound truths from opposite directions. Together, they began exploring new frontiers of existence. Humans developed ways to extend their lives without losing the intensity that mortality brought, while mortal Nexary learned to experience finite existence while maintaining their vast perspective. The synthesis of their approaches led to unprecedented advances in understanding consciousness, time, and the nature of existence itself. We evolved, Zen 3 concluded, his aged form radiating contentment, not by transcending our limits, but by embracing them. Humanity didn't just teach us how to feel, they taught us how to truly live. The assembly chamber filled with a harmony of thought patterns, mortal and immortal consciousness resonating together in new ways. The Nexary had achieved something remarkable. A society that celebrated both the infinite and the finite, understanding that each held different kinds of wisdom. As Zen 3 prepared for his final transition, the first natural ending of a former immortal, he shared one last insight. Our greatest achievement wasn't conquering death. It was learning that some things are beautiful precisely because they end. The story of the Nexary spread across the galaxy, a testament to humanity's unintended but profound influence. They had shown an immortal species that true evolution wasn't about overcoming all limitations, but about choosing which limitations gave life its deepest meaning. In the end, both species had evolved beyond their original forms. Humanity gained the wisdom to extend life without losing its essence, while the Nexary learned that eternal existence wasn't the only path to enlightenment. Together, they created a legacy that would influence civilizations for eons to come. Proof that the greatest achievements often come not from transcending our nature, but from fully embracing it. This wasn't just a story of first contact or cultural exchange. It was a story of how humanity's greatest perceived weakness, their mortality, turned out to be their greatest gift to the galaxy. They taught beings who had mastered eternal life the one thing they had forgotten: how to live fully in the precious present moment.